Okay, g'day guys, how yous going? Today we're going to have a little bit of a talk about a companion piece maybe to my last video, and that one would be what is an SUV? I think the last one was why an SUV, why would you get an SUV, or why did I get one, something like that. So what is an SUV? That's probably something we could talk about. There's a lot of confusion about that, or at least I believe there's a lot of confusion, and we can cover that in some detail, as I am a 50-year-old white male. I was around long before the term SUV came out, and there was a different vehicle around back in those days. So yeah, a little bit of a history about what is an SUV, what it's based off, and find out, maybe do you own an SUV? Maybe you don't. No hating, but alright, before we head off, ooh, sweet, the old Jeep's got a bit of a custom exhaust. No, not a name brand one. It has a how do you describe it? A dodgy job in the back. It is a mixed match of various parts that I have sourced, mostly just exhaust cans. Ooh, bumpy. And what that means is basically I've removed all of the mufflers underneath the car, and then replaced them with a varying other options. Good mufflers. Oh, it's not a dodgy job. It's just a simple case of taking out the pipe and taking out the mufflers, leaving the pipe in there, I'm just leaving self-storage. Jeep SRT doing its deed, and yeah, my mufflers are good quality mufflers. They just simply replace the mufflers that Jeep had originally put in the car, giving it a little bit of a growl, a bit of a bite. Anyway, to the topic at hand. What is an SUV? Well, we all know what that means, literally. Sports utility vehicle. But if you break that down a little bit further and you dissect the definition of sport and the definition of a utility, you soon find that maybe a lot of people don't actually have a sports utility vehicle. They've probably got a utility vehicle, they've probably got a family vehicle, they've probably got something that carts the groceries around, does a nice little, as I've just done, run out to our self-storage, load up the back of your car and run out to storage. But does it do it under the pretensions of being a sporty vehicle? Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Oh dear, I don't have my glasses on, so having a little bit of difficulty reading my gauge. I normally drive with glasses on, but unfortunately the glasses don't work inside the car. They are transition lenses, multifocal, but the transition part does not work inside a car. So I put my sunnies on. Because, I hope this video turns out well. On a side note, I just spent about bloody 20 minutes getting the old settings on the GoPro. As you can probably tell, I have my sunroof open and I have a black interior. Now, that has not been working particularly well to this point, as I'm trying to capture video inside this car and my other heavily tinted GTA, Alpha GTA. It's got much darker tint than this, and it's also got a black interior. The point that I'm trying to make is it doesn't particularly work well with videography, as it tries to detect the light balances, and trying to, obviously, as you can see, hopefully, the definition of the clouds When I get this interior all sorted, light balance wise, it whites out everything outside, so you can't see outside the windscreen. Get the windscreen fucking sorted, then everything inside is black. So hopefully this video works today, with maybe a bit of help from the old sunroof. Oh, this is a shit intersection, by the way. Fucking hate it. Anyway, back to the topic, SUV. So it's got to be sporting, and it's got to be a utility vehicle. 50-year-old. Now we go back to when I was a kid. Now we go back to the 70s and the 80s. No. There's no SUVs back then. Did not exist. Young fellas. Highway patrol. Yes, I do know that road. 4-wheel drives. That's what existed. And if we want to fast forward quickly to the terminology of SUVs, I'd say that SUV terminology would have arrived sometime in the 90s, if not early 2000s. So let's bring that back to 95 to 2005. Somewhere in that rather large bracket is where the terminology SUV first appeared. And it first appeared not in an SUV, but I'm pretty sure that they were referring to actual 4-wheel drives. Because what was occurring was that people were starting to use 4-wheel drives, definitely not for what their intended purposes was, which is obviously 4-wheel driving. Here in Australia, and I'm sure there's other countries that have similar names for them, they're called, in Australia we call them 2-rack tractors. Now that basically means all the clowns in a affluent suburb of a major metropolitan city, an expensive suburb of a metropolitan city, we're all dropping their kids off to private school first thing in the morning in their fucking Land Cruisers and Range Rovers and all that sort of stuff. And that was the first terminology, I believe, where SUV may have come in. And as you can obviously tell, nothing sporty about a Land Cruiser, a Nissan Patrol, a Land Rover Discovery, a Range Rover, what else was there floating around? A Mitsubishi Pajero. I think you get where I'm coming from, yeah? Nothing sporty about those whatsoever. So when SUV first came out, their term of sport was probably more due to the fact that it was a rugged type sort of vehicle. Bear with me while I quickly cut in here. Trump her up a bit. That's sporty, wouldn't you say? So, and we'll get on to that point. So yes, definitely nothing sporty about a 4-wheel drive, but because it could go off-road, it could do adventure type sort of stuff. It was a large station wagon with a large boot, the ability to carry people as well as a substantial amount of equipment, etc., etc. They considered it a sporting utility vehicle. Well, sure, if you want to go down that path, but I'd hardly say that a Hilux is a sports vehicle. It's a utility vehicle. It's a definite utility vehicle. That's a utility vehicle, whatever the fuck that shitbox was, but it ain't no sports utility vehicle. And even still today, neither is your standard 4-litre turbo diesel Land Cruiser GXL, whatever. No. So let's bring that now, I suppose, all the way forward. And what was the first SUV? Probably something German, I would imagine. Definitely wasn't. Oh, how far back did the SRTs go? WK SRT. They must have been up there pretty close to the start. I'd say so. 5.7 Hemi, 6.1 litre Hemi. Definitely early 2000s sometime, yeah? Because the WK2 was already sort of close to 2010-ish. Anyway, I digress. good chance the first SUV, sporting utility vehicle, which of course was based off a four-wheel drive or something in a four-wheel drive type architecture. I keep hearing around the traps M5, X5. Now, and well, we'll stick it in the BMW vein. We've also got the X5 and the X6, yeah? Don't get me started on coupe four-wheel drive vehicles based off a station wagon platform type sort of thing. Don't get me started on an X6M, which is a derivative of the X5M, which is a derivative of the X5. You kind of see where I'm coming from here. So an SUV, yeah, well, I'd argue that an SUV with a coupe body style is probably not an SUV. So how would you classify that vehicle? Look, your guess is as good as mine, but I don't think an X6M is an SUV, but I'm more than comfortable to say that an X5M is an SUV. Jeep SRT, definitely an SUV. A Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit, a Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland, a Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, 4x4, trail rated. No, they're not SUVs. Okay. And the market is currently predominantly SUV heavy. Here's one, there's one. Well, that's a four-wheel drive, that's a utility vehicle. They're everywhere. That's one, that's one, that's one, that's one. Wow, so many, aren't there? So many. Kias, Mazdas, small Toyotas, Hyundai, I don't know, Santa Fe. So many SUVs. There is nothing sporty about a, I don't even know if that's the right, well, that's a Kia something, and it's a small Kia something, so it's neither sporty actually, nor is it even a utility vehicle, because a utility vehicle must be based upon, and I'm driving a Jeep SRT, so that might have attracted a few people to this video, so let's keep it within the Jeep family. So we established that a Jeep Laredo, a Jeep Summit, is not a, based on the Grand Cherokee, is not an SUV. I don't know much about the smaller Jeeps, but Compass, is it a Jeep Compass? Alright. That is not an SUV. It's not even a utility vehicle, and it sure as fuck isn't a sporting vehicle. Well, here comes one now, whatever that is. You know, so small, so small. Is there an X1 for argument's sake? Is there a BMW X1? If there is, it's not sporty, it's not a utility vehicle. It must be at least 5, X5, X7 now. That's a utility vehicle. It has size, it has substance, you can hold stuff. Is it a sporting vehicle? Well, these days, unless it's got an M badge or an AMG badge or an S and RS, or in my case, an SRT, no man, no. She is not sporty, buddy. Sorry, not sporty. And unless she's got a big number at the back, particularly if you want to do the German thing, S7, sorry, not S7, Q7. Look, I'm going to go down that path. Unless it's a Q7, it's not an SUV, or at least it's not the ability to be an SUV. If it's a 5 or a 3, forget it. Too small, too small. I've already said the X5, yeah? It's got to be 5 or a 7 plus. It can't be a 3, and if there is, and I'm pretty sure there is, if it's an X1, forget it. And then obviously the Mercedes variant, and so forth and so forth. So, as I draw myself closely to come home, in summary, what is an SUV? well, not this piece of shit coming up the driveway right here, Toyota fucking shitbox, whatever it is. Too small to be a utility vehicle, that one. That's what mum puts her little 3 babies in there, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Doesn't hold 4 adults, mate. And unless it's got a serious amount of horsepower under the bonnet, newsflash, it's not a sports car or a sports utility vehicle. This Jeep SRT with near on 500 horsepower and 6.4 litre V8 with Bilstein fully adjustable suspension and 6-pot Brembo calipers up front and 4-pot caliper Brembos in the rear. That is a sports utility vehicle. It has all the underpinnings of a sports car in a, and I will use that terminology because that's what they were based on from the very start, in a 4-wheel drive type body, and it handles much slicker than any normal family car does. So if you own a Toyota Kluger, a RAV4, a Hyundai Kona, sorry, not hating, but you don't have an SUV. If you're driving a Nissan Patrol, a Mitsubishi Pajero, a Land Cruiser, Toyota Land Cruiser, you don't have an SUV. You've got a pretty solid 4-wheel drive though, and there's no shame in that, but it's not an SUV. Many decades ago it was, but the terminology has moved on since then. Unfortunately, it's got very watered down and diluted, and many large cars are now simply called SUVs. Sorry, wrong. Alright, I think that'll do us for now, won't it? Alright, I'm quite proud of my Jeep SRT in case you haven't realised. And as you've seen there, it gets up and boogies when it wants to, and it sounds pretty angry doing it. Handles really well. SRT SUV. Check. Alright, thanks very much for joining me on this drive. Thanks very much for listening to me talk my shit. Feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Love to hear your opinions on what you think about my breakdown of the terminology, my take on where it is today, my take on how it originated and where it was based upon. And feel free to get in the comment section there and sling as much shit as you want. I promise I love a good bit of turd talk. Alright, cheers, thanks very much. Zig signing out, and much love from me and the SRT. Next time, who knows, 2 wheels, GTA, could be anything. Alright, cheers, thanks very much, and catch you soon. Zig out.